You might be able to hear my cat purring under my feet because today she has decided that her lunchtime should be an hour earlier than normal. She is not happy. She's not happy at all. So, engaging with art, be it film, TV, literature, video games, music, whatever it is, can pretty much be as deep and meaningful as you want to make it. And that's something that is inherently interesting about art and media. There is a kind of terminal phrase that has infected the internet like a virus over the past few years. It's a phrase we've all heard for a long time, but right now it feels like it's everywhere. And that phrase is, "It's not that deep." Well, it is that deep. But that's the beauty of art. If the people who say it's not that deep choose to believe that, that's their freedom. But it is that deep. It's exactly as deep as you want it to be. So much art, I would argue the majority of art, is created with purpose, is created from inspiration, is created with an angle and a passion. And you can engage with that. You can bring your own interpretations to it. You can do whatever you like with it. That is one of several freedoms of art, is as an observer, as someone who engages with art that is made by other people, we can dig as deep as we want. And I have engaged in this conversation a lot on this channel. It is that deep. The curtains are not just blue. There is meaning to everything. All art is, in fact, political. And recently, kind of on a tangent from that, I made a video about DNFing books, or choosing not to finish a book. And I argued the sentiment from both sides. Why sometimes I feel we shouldn't DNF a book, we should see it through, and other times it's perfectly reasonable to not finish a book. And something that I didn't expect is that so many people in the comments on that video didn't understand or even got annoyed at the idea that I feel a moral obligation to finish a book. Quite often, I feel I have a moral duty to get through something that someone else has created. The book might upset me, it might trigger me, and I still feel that there is something worthwhile in pushing through it, hoping that it'll make me a better or stronger person, and also like I owe it to the artist to see their work through. They have created something beautiful and original, something powerful and meaningful and creatively unique, and I want to see that through. I feel like I owe it to them. And I don't think many other people in the comments felt the same way that I do. And an interesting thing about books is that half of them are fiction and the other half are non-fiction. And when it comes to non-fiction, be it history, science, memoir, whatever it is, I feel even more of an obligation to see it through so that I can complete the learning process, learn everything the book has to teach me, whether it's about a person's life experience or a scientific or historical discovery. I feel like I should see it through and learn everything that they set out to teach me. But I mentioned in that video that I once DNF'd a memoir because it triggered me too much. It really, really negatively affected my brain for weeks afterwards. And I received several comments along the lines of this one, but this one kind of summed it up best. Not being able to finish a book because it is too triggering for you due to illness or trauma, it is not a moral failing on anyone's part. That has really stuck with me, and there were dozens upon dozens of comments saying roughly the same thing. And that got me rethinking about what it means to be a good reader. At the start of this video, I brought up that whole "it's not that deep" thing and the fact that all art is political. And somewhere along the way, as a professional writer, a professional book critic, and a professional editor, I have conflated books being deep and meaningful with books being something that I am morally obligated to get through. Now, I did say in my DNF video that as a critic, I do not believe anyone needs to finish a book in order to accurately criticize it, especially if it's bad. The book fails at entertaining you. The book fails at creating a connection with you. The book fails at presenting you with a moral theme that is worth exploring, and you decide not to finish it. That is a failing of the book, thus a just and right criticism of it. can be produced. And it has been so many times by myself and many other people. And not just when it comes to books, but films and video games, etc. If you don't finish it, that's an interesting criticism that you can levy at the thing in and of itself. But that's not really what I'm talking about. I'm talking about when I said that there is a kind of moral obligation that I feel to finish a book. And it's because I have conflated that with the idea that because art is political, and because art is important, and because art is that deep, I should engage with it fully. And I should push through my own discomfort, my own triggers. I should be okay with being made uncomfortable. And that is something that I believe. If a film challenges your beliefs, if a film presents an argument you've never heard before, if a book teaches you things you never thought you'd be taught, things that had never occurred to you, if a book makes you feel things you've never felt, if a book has the capacity to open your eyes to something, you deserve to see it through. You owe it to yourself and to the author and to the wider world to see that thing through, even if it makes you uncomfortable. But I think I am too narrow in my definition of discomfort. The reason that The Stand has been here behind me the whole time is because I finished this book in spite of how upset it made me. This is a very, very long and difficult journey of a book. There are so many things in here that triggered me in terms of relationships and trauma and experiences. I have health anxiety, and this is about a pandemic. It made me very, very upset. I was having flashbacks to COVID, the most difficult time of my entire life. I survived COVID, but it really screwed my brain. And I know COVID is still around, but you see what I mean. This was not easy. And I have to say, I kind of regret seeing it through. I wasn't in the right headspace when I read it. I wasn't feeling mentally and emotionally strong enough to read it. And now I look at this cover and I kind of get a bit jittery. I don't like holding this. This book genuinely makes me uncomfortable now. Was it worth that? Well, going back to that comment I just read, no. This book triggered me, and I didn't owe it to Stephen King to see it through at the sacrifice of my own mental and emotional well-being. Does that make me a bad reader? I've kind of been under the impression that it does. That if I can't see something through, then I am failing myself and the author. And I have to bring up here something that I've brought up a few times recently, which is the fact that I was recently diagnosed with OCD. And through therapy, I've come to understand that OCD is a lot bigger and more complex than people realize, and that there is an overlap between OCD, ADHD, and autism. So this is a personal journey that I'm going on, and the reason I bring up OCD is because months ago, I made a TikTok about the fact that every weekend I visit my local comic book shop. And I do it for 3 reasons. 1, I like comic books. 2, I love the guy that works there. He's a great friend and I love going to chat with him every weekend. And 3, I feel a moral obligation to help a local small business. This is not a Forbidden Planet. This is not a big chain of comic book shops. This is a tiny independent comic book shop down a narrow little lane in Glasgow. I go there every weekend and buy comics because I need to support them. Even if I'm like a bit worried about money, I will spend £15 on a comic book on a Sunday afternoon because I need to support my local business. And I made a TikTok about that feeling, that obligation that I have to do that no matter what. And I had people in the comments saying, sounds like you have OCD. And that was a few months before I was diagnosed. So is all of this just OCD? Is this me feeling an obsessive compulsion to finish art, to finish every book that I ever read? And I don't. I do DNF books if I think they're boring or shit, if I don't feel like the art is worthwhile. But if I'm presented with a piece of art, a piece of fiction that I think is well written, that is morally complex, that is literary, that is impactful and emotionally devastating, something that is genuinely something that I deem to be a good piece of art, a good piece of fiction, something written with integrity and complexity and skill and talent, I feel the need to see that through because it's good art and I owe it to art and to myself and to the author to see it through. If I don't, I feel like I'm a bad reader. Maybe this is OCD. Maybe it's not. Not everything is to do with our mental defects. It's really complicated and I didn't expect to get upset about it. I was excited to make this video, but now. And also there's a lawnmower outside. I don't know if you can hear it, but it's driving me insane. I think what's really important to remember here here is that we all read for different reasons. And I don't just mean that each individual person reads for a different reason, but that each individual person has many different reasons to read. Especially if you're someone who reads quite broadly. I read different genres for different reasons. I'm in different moods, and those dictate different motivations behind reading. You can read to relax, you can read for escapism, you can read to be educated or entertained. You can read to be challenged. You can read to be emotionally moved. You can read to find connection to other people, be that the author or the characters that they create. You can read to explore. The list goes on and on. And I think depending on the motivation behind the thing that you read, you might be more or less inclined to finish or not finish a book. For example, after I finished The Stand, I decided to read something a lot more cozy and comforting. Paladin's Grace is a romantic fantasy book that is written deftly and with a subtle amount of complexity, especially when it comes to character relationships. And so this book gives me a lot of what I love. I was entertained by it, I laughed. I also enjoyed the escapist fantasy world building and the exciting mystery narrative, so I was drawn in by that. But I also felt emotionally connected to the characters, their romance, and the journey that they went on. If I had chosen not to finish this book, however, I don't know if I would have felt that sense of moral failing, the idea that I had let someone down, even myself. If I had chosen not to finish this book, nothing terrible would have happened. And here's the kicker. I don't remember this book very well. I read it 2 weeks ago, and I don't remember how it ends. It was a palate cleanser. It was something that put me in a good mood. It was something that made me feel better, something that comforted me and entertained me for the time I was reading it. But I don't remember it very well. There are gaps in my knowledge of this book, because although I connected with it at the time, I wasn't reading it in order to have my life changed. And so I guess we need to think about why we go into certain things. And here's where I almost feel the urge to sympathize with the "it's not that deep" attitude. Because there's a difference between appreciating art and appreciating the meaning and the inspiration and the purpose, etc., and overanalyzing yourself when it comes to books, putting too much stock in why you're reading and what you're hoping to get out of it. It could just be as simple as, this is fun, this is entertaining, and I'm enjoying it, and that's okay. Because art is meaningful and important, because all art is political, because libraries are often under threat and books get banned by different regimes, because books are an ultimate representation of the freedom of expression and creativity, and human ingenuity and human creativity, because all those things are vital, and because we need them, I put a lot of stock in the books that I read, and I put a lot of stock in myself to read and fully appreciate everything. But, as other people have pointed out, there's a lot of crap out there. More books are being published than ever before in Western history. There is so much fiction out there, there is so much art, and there is only a finite amount of time. And something has just struck me as I said that. Very often, if I bring up authors who have been criticized, who have potentially done terrible things, I often get people saying things like, but I loved Harry Potter, and I loved Neil Gaiman, and these people, their books, they were so important to me. What do I do now? I feel so connected to them. They're such a part of my life, blah, blah, blah. I always say there is so much good art out there. You can replace Neil Gaiman very easily. There are so many wonderful people out there making incredible art from all around the world, past and present. Go explore. Literature is a vast ocean. There is so much out there. And I think I need to think about that a little bit more. Because there is so much art out there, and there is a finite amount of time, there is definitely an argument for just enjoying yourself. Putting down a book that you're not vibing with. Picking up something that is going to be a better use of your time. Something that's going to make you happier. I don't want art to be empty and vapid. I don't just want to read to be entertained and nothing more. I want to be moved and challenged and educated and everything else that I've said. But at the same time, I am so often reading to be entertained. I so often do seek out fantasy and horror and science fiction books with the hope that, first and foremost, I'm going to be entertained entertained by them. If they have messages and meanings and characters that speak to me, that's great. But I also just want to be entertained. That is true of me as much as it is of anyone. You don't have to put everything on a massive moral pedestal. And I'm sure you recognize right now that so much of what I'm saying, I am just saying to myself. This is my journey to trying to figure out what it means to be a good reader, if such a thing exists and even should exist. This is my journey, and I am hoping that it does resonate with a lot of people who watch this. I don't want this to be nothing. I don't want this to be just for me. This is an exploration of ideas and arguments and perspectives after all. Just like how so much art is subjective, the way that you read is subjective to you. The way that you choose to engage with any art form is yours. And right back at the very beginning of this video, I said that art is as deep as we want to make it. The people who insist that nothing is deep, they don't interest me. Those are empty-headed, boring people. But as someone who knows that all art is political and all art is deep, and it's up to us to explore it and mine it and engage with it, embrace it and plunder it for its beauty, I have tied that up with a moral obligation to fully give everything of myself to every book, no matter how much it hurts me or might make me upset or make me feel sick. And that's what The Stand did, and I regret finishing it. It really took it out of me. I'm in a much better headspace now. And so hopefully I have communicated everything I wanted to communicate with this video. As I've talked unscripted for however long I've been talking, I have had revelations, I have had new thoughts pop into my head, and I hope that all of this has connected back together again. And I'm left with the feeling that perhaps there is no such thing as a good reader. For me, being a good reader means engaging with and appreciating a piece of art. And if I find nothing really worthwhile to appreciate because the art isn't very good, that's okay. But I need to remember that I trained as an English teacher, and I come at a lot of literature from that perspective of being analytical, throwing myself into it and fully immersing myself in it and trying to appreciate it to its fullest. And you don't have to give everything to everything. I just need to calm down a bit. We all read for many different reasons, and that's fine, and we should embrace that. You can be a good reader, you can be a bad reader, whatever that means. Do whatever the you want. Enjoy your books, enjoy your life, because life is hard, and every moment of enjoyment that we get is worthwhile and vital. I'm going to be very interested in what you all have had to say in the comments throughout this video. Give me your perspectives, because every perspective helps make me different. That's actually another thing I should bring up, is that I love change. I love changing and growing and always becoming a better person all the time. We are all things that consistently, continually grow and change, or at least have the capacity to. I've got friends that I've known for 10, 20 years who haven't changed much, and sometimes it kind of weirds me out. You know, I've had people tell me, wow, you've changed. And I'm like, yeah, that's a good thing, right? And so I want the books that I read to change me. And so I put that expectation on them and on myself as a reader to be changed, to grow, it's a lot. And that's also why I spend a lot of time reading comments, even the ones that I don't interact with, because I hope that they will change me too. Half the videos that I ever make are inspired by things I've been told in my comment sections. Ideas and arguments that people bring to the table, whether I agree with them or not, whether they affect me and change me or they don't, they still provide me with inspiration for topics like this one, where I can explore and mull over and express and even argue with myself over the topic of literature. And I hope I've done that, because I love doing this, and I hope that you found it interesting and worthwhile as well. So give me your thoughts, give me your opinions, give me your feelings. Inspire me to do more of this, because I really like these kinds of videos. And if you find my channel and the things that I say worthwhile, please consider supporting me on Patreon. If you can throw me $1 a month, you are massively supporting me. My channel is funded by and survives by Patreon, and I'm so grateful to my patrons. They're amazing people. So even $1 a month, it all adds up to me being able to do this, and I'm always so appreciative. Subscribe for books.